Cans of Takir, I've decided to try and make these big zigzaggy swirls, trying to make them as angled as possible. And I decided to do that because of the constant turmoil and struggle the clans of Takir are constantly in with warring each other. And I chose the colors red and black. So we start with red. Red I chose because it symbolizes both Sark and Vol and the bloody struggles between them. And I'm going to be using that as like the main color. And then black is the dark future of the plane that it's moving towards, and that's going to be the background color basically. And of course, for the other one, it's kind of opposite, and that's to symbolize a bit more that the dark times are coming, and the plan was to have that as the end sheet at the back of the book. I might remake these because I'm kind of sad that the red is more pinkish, but the concept I really like. For Fate Reforged, I have decided to go with large, few swirling patterns. It is to symbolize the change in the timeline and the uncertainty we are looking into and the large changes. And for the colors, we kept the red, and that's because it is still symbolizing Sarkhan Vol's involvement in this, but also the struggle the clans are facing. And we're keeping the black as a background tertiary color, and that's to symbolize this dark future the plane is moving towards and the struggles that are just going to intensify. However, we're adding in a third color as the main color in this world, which is the blue color, which symbolizes both the change in timeline and the time travel stuff, but also Ugin himself. I am actually quite happy with this. The only thing I'm sad about is the red. So I might remake it, but I actually don't think I will. I think I'll keep it as it is. And that's the final set in the Clans of Takir block is Dragons of Takir. And for that one, I tried going with some smaller swirls with some lines cutting through them. And the idea is the small swirls are going to symbolize the rebuilding and the flow of time, while the lines are going to symbolize the disruption the plane have experienced due to Sarkhan Volva and Ugin and the dragons in general. And so for the colors, we're going with blue, red, and green. Starting with the blue, it's kind of the symbolizing the gained knowledge of the plane, and also tying it back to Fate Reforged, where the main color was the blue. Going with the red, it's a reference to the Khans of Takir with red with that one's primary color, while also referencing Sarkhan Vol and the tumultuous and violent story the plane has gone through. And finally, we're working with a little bit of green, which is symbolizing how the plane and its people are healing and rebuilding, and that is the smallest part of the plane. I really like this one, and I would not read. Also tying it back to looking at the Theros set, I really don't like this one. So what I was trying to go for were a pattern of soft swirls and clouds that was supposed to reminiscent the heavens and reflecting the realm of the gods and the celestial. And for this I wanted to use a gold, which should symbolize the divine power of the gods and be in these large swirls. But as you can see, the gold did not spread. It basically just made white with gold specks in the middle. And then I was going for a blue representing the sky, and this was supposed to be like the base color. And finally I was going for this gray ivory color, evoking the sense of the ancientness of the set, given it's inspired by the ancient Greek mythology. And also supposed to be like small dots in the swirls. So I would definitely remake this one. For Born of the Gods, I was trying to go for a more of an angular sharp pattern, and it didn't really work out how I wanted it. And the reason why the angular sharp is due to all the wars and the martial themes that this set represent. And for the red, I was trying to go for a darker red, and it kinda works, but I was symbolizing the fiery passion and the battles. And then I was going for the gray color, which was supposed to represent the strength and the resilience, and also again reminiscent the ancient from the Theros. And finally, I wanted some black and to symbolize the intrigue and the darker aspects of this one. Sadly, it did not work out. I might remake it, but I also like kind of how it turned out. So not quite sure. There wasn't supposed to be any white or blue, which is what saddens me a little. I guess you could see the blue as the representing the heavens from the gods, and the white as the purity and the counter of the war. But it wasn't supposed to be there, so I might remake it. For the final set in the Theros block, Journey into Nyx, I was going for this ethereal plane feeling, since we are going into the underworld of the plane. And for that, I chose to have some powerful blues, which was supposed to symbolize the death and some death. And it's also like a bit of a contrast to the purple, which is the next, like the main color of the set, which is supposed to represent the magical and the transcendent nature of Nyx. And then finally, I was trying to go for a silver, but it ended up being a darker gray, which is supposed to be like the celestial and the stars. But in this case, I think it kind of calls back to Theros and Born of the Gods, so it kind of ties the entire thing together. I really like this one. I think it turned out very, very cool and very beautiful. Alright, so we're definitely going to be remaking this one. So, because for Battle for Zendikar, I was going for these long, squiggly lines, almost swirls, and that kind of worked. And that was supposed to symbolize the tendrils of the Eldrazi horrors, but order being restored by the Gatewatch. Like, that was the idea behind it. And so for the colors, I wanted to use a bright green to symbolize the nature and the jungles of Zendikar, and I have no green, I have a blue instead, so I have no idea what I was thinking. And then I was going to go with a brown, which is there, and that was supposed to be the resilience of the people of Zendikar, while also represent the floating islands of the plane. And that was supposed to be the tertiary color, and it's not. And finally, we were supposed to have a dark purple, not this pale purple, and that was supposed to be symbolizing the eldritch horror from the Eldrazi, kind of like in the Color Outer Space by H.G. Lovecraft. So this one is definitely a remake. I have no idea what went wrong, but I think it's funny. It does look cool, so we will be using it for other books. For Oath of the Gatewatch, I did use the colors I intended to use, so that's something. Because we did use the blue I wanted to use, but let's start out with the pattern. The pattern itself, I was thinking of trying to make it long, almost squiggly lines. Again, it's the tendrils of the Eldrazi horror, and it didn't work quite as well. It turned into more swirly than I wanted it to be, but it still looks pretty darn good. For the blue, I wanted it to be a bit of a sky blue, light blue color, and it is, and it looked really good. And that was to symbolize the unity and hope of the Gatewatch. And then of course you're gonna have this dark purple, which it isn't, but it still looked cool. Which is again the Eldritch horror, like Color Outer Space, all that stuff like previously. And then finally we have the earthy brown color, or in this case it's just the brown color. And that's added as symbolizing the resilience of Zendikar, while also representing the plane itself through its floating islands. This one turned out so cool, I like it a lot, and we will definitely use it for the Oath of the Gatewatch book when we get to it. Cool. Now let's get to the currently most chaotic one, which is for Magic Origins. And for that one, I was trying to go for just chaos. Just many little swirls, lines, anything really. And it was trying to symbolize the 5 main planeswalkers. So we have red for Chandra and her Fury Spirit, black for Liliana and her necromantic powers, blue for Jace and his mind magic, and white for Gideon and his sense of justice and righteousness. And finally green for Nissa and her connection to nature and life. And I think they turned out so cool. I love them so much, and I can't wait for us to get to make Magic Origins and use these two. Plain. Now we're back at Innistrad with Shadows over Innistrad, and for that one I was trying to go for many swirls with squiggly lines in between them. That did not quite work out, but it did get the chaotic and uneasy feeling that I was going for. And for the blue color I chose, that means the mystery and at the same time the hope of the plane to defeat the Eldrazi. And also it is a reference to the next set where the Eldrazi are stopped. And then I was trying to go for a dark purple, again it turned into a light purple sadly, and there was both a reference back to the Zendikar block and also to the Eldrazi horrors. And then I wanted a dark green, but it didn't turn out to be a dark green, and that's because I wanted dark green to be the unease and tension on the plane, and it was supposed to clash with the purple, creating even more unease and tension. However, this light green feels more like a hope, I guess, which also works for the story. So yeah, I really like it. I think it turned out gorgeous and I can't wait to use it. There was both. For Eldritch Moon, I tried to go for a bit more of a classic stone marble pattern, and it kind of worked out a little. Would I like to have more like dots in it so it was more filled out and not just so much purple? But let's start with the blue color. The blue is the mystery that we're trying to solve here on how to trap the Eldrazi, but it also is a reference to the sky where the moon is, where they got trapped, and that's why we also have this gray-brown color, which is a reference to the moon where Emrakul will be trapped, but it's also like just a reference to the like brown, like everything is dead on this classical horror plane. And then finally we have the purple, which was supposed to be more in between the stone marble. It's not. It's way more prominent, but that is of course again the Eldrazi, and it is a reference to both the Zendikar block and Shadows over Innistrad. And I like it a lot. If I would probably remake it so the purple were way more pressed in between the stone marble and have way more of the blue and the brown. But I think it looked cool, and I haven't decided yet if I want to remake it. Let's talk about the Kaladesh set. For that one, I wanted it to be curved and a bit chaotic in the almost zigzaggy in a way, but not pure zigzag pattern. And that's because I wanted to symbolize the freedom and the creativity on the plane, while also showing the twists and turns it takes to invent new things. And for the colors, I chose a red to symbolize the creativity and the fiery spirit the creators of these inventions have. It shows the passion these people have for creating and inventing new things. And then I chose a blue color for the intelligence and the innovation of the plane. And it represents the idea of gaining new knowledge all the time. And it's way more of the calm innovator, whereas the red is the fury. So it kind of adjusts to contrast. And then I have a black, brown black, it was supposed to be black, which is the hidden dark underworld of the plane, the corrupt world where people like Gunti is from. And it is just slightly there just to show it. Whereas we also have the white to show the order and the plane, like the leadership of the plane. I love it. I think it turned out gorgeous, and I can't wait to use it. For Aether Revolt, we're going for harsh, zigzaggy patterns, and that's the struggle and the political twists and turns and the revolution going on. And for the colors, we have red, which is the creativity and the fierce spirit, and it's also the revolution. Whereas we have the black, which is again the hidden underground, and it's a little more prominent here because it's showing itself a bit more in the story. And then we have white, which is both a journey, but also the unity of the rebellions and the solidarity. And they fight for what believe is proper justice and righteousness. I really like this one. I think it turned out just how I imagined it, and I am so fucking excited to get to it. Let's travel to Amonkhet, where we're gonna be looking at the blue lines are the river itself, and the swirls are the desert and death and death going hand in hand, while the red is Nicol Bolas himself, and the devastation that this plane has felt. So talking about the blue is the river Luxa flowing through the plane, giving life. Whilst red is called Nicol Bolas arriving, and the black is the death that is everywhere. I have decided to not have as much of the black because I think it looked better. And then we have the white, which is the desert and the guards of the plane. I love it. I think it's cool. If I would remake it, I would have the red be way more fury, and then have the desert not be a white, but have more of a sandy color. But I don't know, I like it, so I'll probably use it as it is. For Hour of Devastation, I'm going for a lot of the same as for Amonkhet, but we're just making it way more chaotic because now the Gatewatch is taking on Nicol Bolas, or at least trying to. And so for this one, blue is of course the river Luxa flowing through the plain, red is the struggles and Nicol Bolas, black is the death that is everywhere. And now death is way more there because we are at the Hour of Devastation. And white is the desert itself. And it's way more there because it's what gives Nicol Bolas his power. And so this is a way more of a chaotic one. I think it turned out exactly what I wanted. It's chaos and it's beautiful in the colors, and it just makes me want to bind some books, man. So let's move on to the next one. Now that we traveled to Ixalan, I was trying to go for a bit more of geometric swirls, so you'll see a lot of more harsh lines in it, and that's of course trying to symbolize the Aztec culture that inspired this plane. And so we have the blue, which is the vast oceans of the plane, and then we have the red, which is the struggles of all the factions. And finally we have the green, that is the lost jungles and wild nature. And what I wish I'd done, and that's why I might remake this one, is have the green be a more vibrant green, and have, of course, basically all colors be more vibrant, but have the green be the primary color instead of the red, because I think the red should have been way more of a tertiary color. So I will probably remake this one, hopefully also with a bit more sharper lines. I still like it, I can definitely find use for it, but I don't think I'll be using it for the excellent book. For Rivals of Ixalan, I was trying to go for large swirl patterns with small, like large waves with small swirls in it. And that's because it's the movement of the factions that we're getting closer to the Golden City. And then while the small swirls are the small battles on their ways. And so the blue is again the ocean of Ixalan, given Ixalan and also the rivers. And red is the struggle between the factions and the adventurous spirit of the plane, while green is again the lost jungles and the wild nature. And I'm also gonna remake this one, I think, because again I want the green to be way more vibrant and way more of a primary color. And also I'd like the pattern to be way more visible for what I'm going for. And I think if I remade it, I could get that way better. Still looks good, still gonna use it for a book, probably not Rivals of Ixalan though. This is definitely one I'm gonna be remaking, which is for Dominaria. And Dominaria, I was going for large swirls with small swirls connecting the large ones, and that's supposed to symbolize the large events of the plane, but also the smaller reactions happening to it. And for colors, I want to go for a blue, which is the deep knowledge that has been gained through its history, arcing all the way back to Ursa, Mishra, and Baron. And then I was going for green, which is the healing and the mending of Dominaria that has happened. And the plane has gone through a lot, and yet nature and life still prevail and thrives. And finally, gold, the rich history of the plane. And also, gold is used for the color of the legendary, so it's also a reference to all the important people from this plane. And sadly, the gold, it just does not want to work for me, so I definitely have to remake this one and find another way of getting this golden reference going. For core set M19, I want to go for large swirls, but it ended up being more of a stone pattern, which I'm okay with. I was trying to go with the blue, represent the ancient knowledge of both dragons like Nicol Bolas and Hugin, while red being the fierce struggle between the brothers and also the ambition of Nicol Bolas. And then I wanted the black to symbolize death and the necrotic powers of Nicol Bolas, while I wanted a gray silver, which turned out to be more of a white, to be the Yugen power. So it's like blue, black, red is actually the colors of Nicol Bolas, and I wanted that to be because he's the main bad guy, so he's gonna be dominating, and then the gray silver is basically Ugin, who's the colorless spirit dragon. And it worked out kinda. I wanted the colors to be more vibrant, but I haven't decided if I want to keep this one or remake it. But I like it, and if I'm gonna remake it for the book, I can definitely find usage of these pages for something else. Since we've returned to the city plane of Ravnica, I wanted to do something that represents all 10 guilds. And so the pattern is like this chaotic small swirls, lines, like just chaos. It is showing the conflict and the like also the alliances between the guilds. And let's start from the top. Blue is to symbolize the Azorius, the Dimir, the Izzet, and the Simic, while black is then supposed to symbolize the Dimir, the Rakdos, the Orzhov, and the Golgari. Red is the Rakdos, the Gruul, the Izzet, and the Boros, and white is the Azorius, Celestia, the Orzhov, and the Boros. And finally, green is the Gruul, the Celestia, the Golgari, and the Simic. I like it. I wish the white hadn't taken over so much, so I don't know if I'll remake it just so there isn't that much white, but we'll see. I do like how it turned out though. For Ravnica Allegiance, I was going for the same things, which means we're trying to make the small swirls, we're trying to show the chaotic conflict between the guilds, and all 5 colors are trying to be equally represented and chaotic there. And again, just because it's fun to say, blue is the Azorius, Dimir, Izzet, and Simic, black is the Dimir, Rakdos, Orzhov, and Golgari, red is the Rakdos, the Gruul, the Izzet, and the Boros, white is the Azorius, Celestia, Orzhov, and Boros, and green is Gruul, Celestia, Golgari, and Simic. Yeah, basically exact same thing because they're kind of the same in the idea. So I also remake this one due to the prevalence of white, but I haven't decided yet. But I do like it. So yeah, let's move on to War of the Spark. Now here's one I'm definitely gonna remake. I do not like it at all actually. But let's talk a little about War of the Spark anyways. What I really wanted to go for was like vertical lines between the red and the black, and then with a tiny bit of white, which is exactly not what I did, and I don't know what went wrong. But so the idea is that the red is the struggle from Nicol Bolas and the fury of people and all the planeswalkers trying to resist him, while black is the death and despair coming from him and his schemes, and then white is the hope and the unity of the people fighting him. And I would have loved for the white to just be tiny pieces, but instead it ended up dominating way too much. I guess it's kinda apt because the story of War of the Sparks was such a letdown, so maybe it fits, but I would definitely remake this one. For Zendikar Rising, I was trying to go for a stone marble or like a cracked earth kind of style to show the plane itself and how it's healing from the Eldrazi. And so the color brown, I wanted to be the terrain and the ground of the plane, and I wanted it to go kind of in between all the stone marbling colors. And then I really wanted to go for vibrant green. Again, it's this pale one, and it's okay, but I wanted that one to be the nature and the wildness of the jungle. And then I wanted the red to be the adventurous spirit of the visitors and the inhabitants of the plane, and also like the struggle for survival in this plane after all that has happened to it. It did turn out pretty good. I like it. I think I'll use it. Even though it's a bit paler than I wanted, I think for a stone cracked one, it looks really good. Let's talk about one of my favorite ones thematically, at least, and that's the Kaldheim. And for that one, I was going again also for stone marble to show the cold hardness of the plane. And so the white is supposed to symbolize the snow and the coldness, and also visually enhance the other colors. While the blue will show how cold, the frozen, and give a chilly feeling. And finally, this silvery gray color is supposed to show the hardiness of both nature and the people living there. And one of the pages did get a little bit of green, which I like because it kind of adds in this. There's a little bit of life, a little bit of lushness. The plane is not completely dead, but it's primarily just a frozen cold place. And I think thematically this one turned out so good. For our magic school Strixhaven, I was going for these peafowl-esque swirls, and that's supposed to show how the school will teach the students to experiment, be different, show who you are, like all that stuff. And so the red is the creativity and the excitement of the students, but it also represents Rowan Kenrith, whereas the blue is the knowledge, the wisdom, and it's the school's teachers, but it also shows Wilf Kenrith. And then finally we have black, which is the necrotic arts and general dark magic that is also taught, and while also symbolizing Liliana Vess. And honestly, I think this one turned out so fucking beautiful. I would use this for a non-magic book. It's so good, and I can't wait to make Strixhaven just because of these end sheets here. So definitely one of my all-time favorites. And then we are once again visiting Innistrad, this time for the Midnight Hunt. And for this one I wanted to get it into a more of a wavy pattern, and so that's to show how the plane has returned to its normal classical horror state, I guess you can call it. And so I want the green to symbolize the werewolf and the plane's naturalistic nature feeling. And then I want the white to be the moon that's transforming these werewolves here. So the white is the moonlight itself. And then find out the red, which is the fury and the bestial power and the nature of the hunt, the blood in the hunt. And I think it turned out good. I would like for the green to be way more prevalent in the center, but I am not opposed to it. I think it is perfectly beautiful, and there's a little bit of black symbolizing the darkness and the horror, and it's just I like it a lot. Might remake it, get more blue, more green in it, but I think I might also just keep on. Now, instead of talking about werewolves, let's talk about the vampires in Innistrad, Crimson Vow. For this one I was going for small peafowl-esque pattern, I think it's called. It didn't quite work out, but I think it looks good anyways. And for that one I chose the color black for the darkness that is the vampire and the plane itself. And I wanted white for symbolizing the wedding dress and the general motif of weddings. And finally I wanted red for the blood the vampires need and the blood magic they have. And it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's perfectly fine the red isn't as vibrant. I also think it would have looked so badass with a more vibrant red. I might remake it just to try and see how it looks with a vibrant red, but as it is now, I love it. I love there's a little bit of green from Midnight Hunt showing the disturbance the werewolves do make, but it isn't a lot because they're not a primary focus. This is so good. I think Now let's travel to Kamigawa with Neon Dynasty, the future Japan-inspired plane. And so for this one, I was going for small zigzag swirls pattern to show the like it's more like the futuristic and the cyberpunk style of the plane. I don't think the pattern worked out how I wanted it, but it looks good. And then I chose purple to be symbolize this neon futuristic vibe. And then I chose a I wanted to go for a pink, but you can't really see the difference. But I wanted a pink to enhance the cyberpunk vibe. And then blue for tradition, but also a reference to both Tamio, Kaito, Tesseract, and Jin-Gitaxias. And I like it a lot. I think it turned out gorgeous. What I would have preferred was definitely for pink and purple instead of was basically pink and white. They still look gorgeous. It's one of my favorites I made. Stylistic wise, I don't think it fits perfectly, so I might remake it just to get these more vibrant colors. But you will definitely see this one in the sketchbook at some point, or in Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. I haven't decided yet. For Streets of New Capenna, I wanted to go for these longer zigzaggy movement to show the Art Deco that is like the art style of the entire plane, and that definitely failed. And I wanted the black to be the crime and murdering that's happening, but also a reference to Obnixilis trying to gain power. Also, the city is run by demons. And I wanted the white to be the hope of the people for the angels to return and a reference to Giada and her role in the story. And finally I wanted red to be the violence that's all over this plane, but also the Phyrexians that are just outside the city. In this case it's Orobrask. This one is definitely on my need to remake. I don't think it turned out good at all for what I wanted, but it's okay. I learned a lot, and hopefully in a remake it will look even to be the hope of. We are once again returning to Dominaria in Dominaria United. And this time I'm going for chaos, chaotic swirls, and I think that worked out. And the chaotic swirls is supposed to symbolize the turmoil that the plane is under. Who can you trust? Who's a Phyrexian agent and who's the good guys? And so black is of course a reference to the original Phyrexians who were pure black. But it's also a reference like symbolizing the bleakness of the plane's future. And finally, Shieldred is here, and she's black. And then there's the white color. The white is the hope and the resilience of the planeswalkers trying to fight back against the Phyrexians. It's supposed to symbolize the light in the darkness they spread. And then there's blue, which is how both sides trying to use their cunning and their smartness to outwit each other. And I think that worked out pretty well. I think it turned out very, very beautiful. And I liked a little bit of red because there's a little fighting going on, but not a lot. So yes, this is a good one. Sadly, I already made the book, so we'll see that in another sketchbook. Let's travel a little back in time, because now we're taking a look at the Brothers' War. And for the Brothers' War, I tried to go for these large, swirly, peafowl swirls. And that's the interconnectedness of the two brothers, Mishra and Ursa, and how they try to take over each other. And so for Mishra and the Phyrexians, I wanted to go with black, because we are back in time when the Phyrexians were only black, and Mishra being influenced by them. And then we have the blue color of Ursa and his insane intellect for creating new machines. And then finally we have this gray that I'm actually happy we can see in the paper, which is the artifacts and the power stones that started the entire war between the two brothers. I think it's so beautiful. I think it turned out so well. So sad that I couldn't use it in the book when I made it, but you see that in the video when we get to that. Now let's take on the Phyrexia All Will Be One. And for this one I went for the small like small swirls but very long peafowl swirls. And that's a reference to the, well, that's supposed to symbolize the elegance and control of Elish Norn. and it's only gonna be the two colors as like main colors, which is white and red. Both of those are the colors of Elish Norn. And then we have the little bit of blue, which is and black, and like some of the other colors shining through, which is just all the side stuff, but really it's just to show the dominating power and influence Elish Norn has over everything in this storyline here. And they're just, I can't wait to use them. The only thing is I wish the red were just a crimson blood red. So for that I will remake it, because I think that would just be so much better. For March of the Machine, I tried to do a what's called a bird wing pattern apparently, and that was to symbolize the elegance and perfection of the Phyrexians with the chaos of the resistance. And I think I managed to get the chaos, but I didn't get the pattern down, but that's okay. And then, of course, just like with All Will Be One, we have red and white. It's just the primary color showing Elish Norn. She is Phyrexia, she is the new enemy. But then we have the green, which is the hope, the resistance of nature that will prevail over the artificial intelligence. And it's a clash of ideas, and I think these two pages here just shows that so well, and I can't wait to use them. They are perfect. For Wilds of Eldraine, I went with the smaller randomness, and that's of course to reference the forest where most fairy tales takes place, and the unknown that is the beginning of the Omen Path arc. And for colors, I went with a white for Kellen and his hope for completing his task and for a better life and figuring out who he is and where he's from and all that. And blue is of course Oko and Ashiok, the two planeswalkers of this that is going on here. And then we have green, which is the nature of Eldraine, but also Oko himself being the trickster and being one of the main protagonists. Well, not antagonists. And I think it turned out beautiful. I think it's one of the prettiest, and I actually love here that it's not the overly vibrant, but they are a bit more pastel-y. So this is just perfection for me again. 2 in a row, that's perfect. It's here. Now for the final one, because sadly my camera ran out of power when recording all the others. So final one we're going to do in this video is Lost Caverns of Ixalan. And for that one I was trying to go for big swirls, big wavy swirls, and I think it worked out perfectly. And green is the jungles of Ixalan again, but also a reference to the first Ixalan set. Blue is the oceans and rivers of Ixalan, and brown are now the caves that we're digging down into. And oh, I think it looks super epic, and it's so beautiful, and I can't wait to use it in the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. I think it's just chef's kiss. It's so good, and I cannot. It sounds like I'm joking myself, but I think that one turned out really nicely. I like how the green is the dominant, and I do like that I managed to get it a bit more vibrant, but not too much. So yeah. Definitely ending this out on a banger. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe.